is nature's surround sound, and it is created by the whooping of the tundra swans, the quacking of ducks, the squawking of coots, the honking of Canada geese, and the sounds of dozens of other migrating waterfowl that spend the winter at the Poquoson Lakes National Wildlife Refuge. The winged chorus of bird calls echoes across the lake and the landscape. It is deafening, amazing, and inescapable, even for the turtle, which appears to be heading back to the water to get away from it all.
Never get tired of it.
Why?
Never get tired of it. It's just different than what you see in most places, and it's beautiful, and it's a part of the creation that we're supposed to be taking care of, and so that's what we're doing.
Poquoson Lakes National Wildlife Refuge near Columbia lies in the middle of the Atlantic Flyway. The Flyway is a migration path that generally follows the Atlantic coast of the United States and the Appalachian Mountains. The endpoints are the Canadian Maritime Provinces to the north and the Gulf of Mexico in the south. It is one of 4 waterfowl flyways that stretch across the country. Okay, so I got swans, and then I have ducks right next to it, and then there's
beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can focus on the area beyond
The central location of the refuge means that between October and February, about 100,000 migrating waterfowl will winter at the refuge. There are more than a dozen species.
There's also some Canada geese out there that I saw. Yeah, they're straight off there off the point. There's quite a few coots swimming around. There are probably a couple thousand of green-winged teal, which are some of the smallest ducks. I saw some gadwall earlier, and some black ducks, and I think there were some northern pintail earlier too.
Biologist Elaine Barr performs ground surveys and aerial surveys to count the birds.
It's very visual, so you kind of train your eye to see, as you said, so you train your eye to see, okay, that's 10 birds, that's 50 birds, that's 100 birds, that's 500 birds, 1,000, 5,000. So it's really about training your eye to see those groups and see those patterns.
It takes a lot of training and practice to visualize the clumpings or groupings of birds, which allows you to count the flocks quickly. It's even more of a challenge when you see this, a thin white line that looks like a dusting of snow on the opposite shore of Pungo Lake.
Well, you're close when you say snow because it's a thick line of snow geese, and they tend to group closely together like that. And that's how you can tell them apart from a grouping of tundra swans, which is obviously another type of white bird we have here at Poquoson. So they'll spend their time between here, resting on the lake, and then going out to the fields.
Look away for a moment, and suddenly the dusting of snow becomes a cloud, a blur of motion that rises and swells and changes color from white to gray and back again.
And this year we've been getting numbers between 30 and 40,000 snow geese on the lake at a time. And I would say that's probably about what we have out there right now.
The surveys of birds provide scientists with a means to monitor the health of huge populations, not only at the present time, but over time.
And then we also get that long-term data. So we have data back from the 60s, as Howard was mentioning. So you see that trends over time, which is really important. And also all of our data here at the refuge gets uploaded to a national, and I guess if you count Canada, international level. And so that goes with duck numbers, they get uploaded to the Atlantic Flyway and things like that. And that helps with national and international conservation efforts. So you'll know if, for example, we might have good numbers of black ducks here, but other states might not have good numbers. And then we'll know that we need to start focusing conservation efforts on that.
The refuge is scientifically managed to provide the best habitat for migrating waterfowl. The birds spend their time on the water and in the neighboring fields, resting from the journey south, feasting on leftover grain, and fattening up for their return to the north.
There's the lake, Pungo Lake, which is 2,800 acres. And it is used primarily by the waterfowl as a roosting and loafing area. It's a historic site for the birds. They've come here for eons, and it's the primary draw probably for the area. The other two prongs are our cooperative farming program and the farming area that we have, and the moist soil management areas, the moist soil impoundments that we have. The cooperative farming program, we bring in local farmers, and they farm the ground for us, but rather than paying us rent for using that land, we have them leave a portion of the crop in the field for wildlife, and in particular for the waterfowl. The moist soil units, on the other hand, we can manipulate the water levels and produce high quality waterfowl foods, native or natural plants.
Researchers say while their counts of specific bird species may rise and fall somewhat from year to year, the overall counts of migrating waterfowl are holding steady. Refuge managers say the bird counts are good news as development continues to threaten wetlands, and a sign the work of the refuge is succeeding.
You have to find new and improved ways of managing for them. But I think actually we're probably seeing conditions improve, or the amount of habitat improve, with the conservation efforts that are going on nationwide. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. No other way to describe it.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance. And I guess our feature video had a long end to it, which was just nothing. So apologize for that. But on any account, Kent Marts, now in his 36th episode of On the Wing, has more viewer submission birding photography he wants to share. So let's turn it over to Ken.
Hey, Scott. So I was watching that preview that you had in the countdown timer, and most people are going to be able to identify those big birds that we were seeing as Canada geese. And you were telling me you have a resident Canada goose in the complex where you live.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, we noticed that there was this one. It's a male goose. He's like almost all kind of gray brown. He doesn't have the markings of the Canadian goose that has that black and that distinctive black and white pattern on its face. So, you know, I would take a walk with my wife around the park to this lake, and I mean, this dude, he owns this lake. Okay, if you get close to him, his head goes down, he stretches out his neck, and he comes after you, you know, and you can be sitting, you know, 50 yards away and he'll come after you. He'll come out of the lake and chase you away. So he's just very territorial.
So that's the starting process of being goosed. Because if you stand there, he's going to come up and peck you in the leg or the rump. And if Goosey
looks,
yeah, he will. And if
Absolutely
Goosey doesn't work, he's going to flog you. He'll actually jump up on you, grab your clothes with his beak and his claws, and begin to beat you with his wings. And it may not hurt you like a dog bite. You're going to come away black and blue because you can't get the devil off of you until he decides to let go. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So get a picture
anyways,
of it.
You know, we give him plenty of room. We have learned that he doesn't like dogs. Okay. So if somebody comes up with there's a dog, then he's either right at the lake shore or in the water, you know, so he just doesn't come out.
So Scott, your job is to get video of him for us for next week. That's your assignment. Okay. I'm gonna make you an assignment to get video of this for next week's
Now,
show.
I do.
Right?
I have some video of him swimming after, I think, a love interest. And so one of the things I learned, I was kind of curious because I saw that there are Canadian geese in there. I assume they're all female. There's like 6 of them there. And there's some ducks. And I learned that that ducks can, they will imprint, mate, whatever, with geese. Okay, but they can't produce offspring because they're really 2 different species. But ducks will, allow their young to be taken care of by geese, and vice versa. Ducks can take care of goslings. And so it's a really interesting relationship in that way. But geese and ducks do mate within their own species range, okay,
Right.
and produce kind of hybrid type of birds that are out there. But the myth of a goose duck or a duck goose, that doesn't really exist. Okay, so
A duck goose. Yeah.
a duck goose. So, but they do. I guess we've named this goose Paco is his name, and Paco. It appears, anyways, that he's got a couple of female ducks that he's kind of watching over, plus these other 6, what I think are female geese. Okay, and they're all Canadian geese. And they look beautiful. I will take some.
Get pictures.
I'll get pictures and video.
And
Yeah.
in the background, Scott, of that, there was another weird looking bird walking around. I don't know if you want to start that video real quick and we can see it, and everybody may not have paid attention to it. So if you can start that.
Which video? The one that
the countdown video. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get my screen set up here. So, okay, those are Canada geese. See those birds in the background? So we're looking at those smaller birds in the background.
Yeah, I see them.
Okay, what do you think they are?
Cowbirds?
They're not cowbirds. They're weird birds, that's for sure. But they're not cowbirds. They're a water bird called a moorhen, Moorhen. At first, I thought there were a bird called a gallinule, Gallinue, gallinule. But on closer look, they're moorhens, Moorhens, also called water chickens or swamp chickens. So I sat there and looked at them, and I was pretty sure I started with the gallinule, but then morphed over into the decided they were moorhens and looked them up, and yes, they are the common moorhen. So they are a bird of the United States, and they are so I'm gonna guess this video is probably a United States video. So you can stop the video now. So there we go. So we got a bonus bird on the intro. So let me share my screen and my sound, which I always forget to do. All right, here we go. So there we go. So get started in here. Welcome to On the Wing, everybody. I'm your host, as Paul Newton would say, Kent Marts, in the boxing ring voice. We're going to start out with photos by Carl Bernhardt, and this is the black-necked stilt. And you can see why it's called a stilt, because it's got long legs, clearly a wading bird because of those long legs. And I have a double map because they are common in the western parts of South America, eastern parts of South America, but they're a common bird in the United States, range all over the place. Although I have never seen one. So let's listen to the black-necked stilt call. Here we go. Turn your sound up. Here we go. And that's just about it. You can hear a crow and a red-winged blackbird in the background as well. To me, it almost sounds like a woodpecker that we hear a lot of. We've had a lot of woodpeckers in the past, and it's almost like a woodpecker, just a dip, 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 dip sound. So there we go. All right. So there we go. All right. So these are a tall but small-bodied shorebird. They're 13.5 to 15 inches tall. So that puts them in between the size of a robin and a crow. They have a very long legs and a long neck, small head, and thin, straight bill. They weirdly can mate with another bird that we've talked about in the past. We'll talk about that in a minute. Clearly, they're pretty obviously black above and white below. They have white around the eyes and rosy pink legs. In females and immature birds, the black area becomes sort of a brownish color. I'm going to identify the one on the left as a male and maybe the one on the right as a female because of that brownish hue we see on the back. It may just be the lighting, so who knows? These are very stately shorebirds with those long rosy pink legs. They elegantly move through the water, very unmistakable even with a glance. They move deliberately when foraging, walking slowly through wetlands and flats in search of tiny aquatic prey. When disturbed, they are very vocal, which from what I'm reading is being mild. They have a high yapping call that carries for a distance, and they all get going. They wade in shallow water, as we can see here. They seldom swim. Adults defend their nests and chicks by flying around and calling loudly. They also participate in what's called popcorn display, which involves a group of birds gathering around a predator and jumping, hopping, or flapping to drive it away from the nest. So they will cooperatively protect their nest by this popcorn display. I suspect it's called popcorn display because they're bouncing around like kernels of popcorn in hot grease. They're like saltwater and freshwater both. They prefer mud flats, salt pans, and salt marshes, and many human modified habitats such as sewage ponds, evaporation pools, flooded fields, and stormwater detention ponds prove to be good habitat for them. There are 5 species, all rather similar looking in the same genus. And strangely, they have the second largest legs in proportion to their bodies of any bird except for one. What do you think that is, Scott? I'm putting you on the spot here. Think about the most common tall bird.
Ostrich.
No, well, I think
that cheating?
That's cheating. That's a large bird, but their length to leg to body is less than this one. Think pink.
Oh yeah, flamingo.
Flamingos. There you go. Pink flamingos have the longest ratio of body to leg, second only to the black-necked stilt. There's a Hawaiian subspecies that has more black on the neck and less white around the eyes. Subspecies in South America, sometimes called the white-backed stilt, not the white-black stilt, but the white-backed stilt, has a collar that goes across the upper back. They belong to the same family as the American avocet. If you remember, we had a picture from Carl Bernhardt of an avocet that has a long curved beak, really significantly curved beak. They're in the same family, and they are capable of hybridizing and producing young that survive. These hybrid offspring are rare, but birders have documented the cross and have given it the nickname the avo stilt because it's a combination between an avocet and a black necked stilt. So listen to the call one more time, a little bit. it almost sounds like a barking squirrel. I'm sitting there listening to it going, if I'm out in the woods, it sounds like a barking squirrel. It just goes on and on, but it is very squirrel-like. So going to move along to the never popular brown-headed cowbird. Never popular. I guess, it's one of God's creations. It is a native species, but it is despised by many birders. We'll talk about why. The male is 7.5 inches to 8.5 inches, which is between a sparrow and a robin. However, the females can be bigger, up to almost 8 inches, so a little bit bigger. Male brown-headed cowbirds have glossy black plumage and a rich brown head that often looks black in poor lighting and distance. Female brown-headed cowbirds are plain brown birds, which typical of many female birds. They're just plain brown, lighter on the head and under parts with fine streaking on their belly, and they have a dark eye. So it's first glance, many people just think they're blackbirds, but they're not. The bill has a distinctive shape. It is much shorter and thicker at the thicker base than other black birds, 2 words, almost finch-like. And in flight, look for a shorter tail that is not nearly as long as a blackbird or grackle for that matter. They feed on the ground in mixed flocks of blackbirds and starlings. Males gather on lawns to strut and display for mates, while the females will prowl the woodland edges in search of nests. Brown-headed cowbirds are noisy, making a multitude of clicks, whistles, chatter-like calls, in addition to a flowing, gurgling song. Here we go. It almost to me sounds like part of a red-winged blackbird call. I couldn't find any video of the gurgling sound. And I think that's a metronome bird in the background. I haven't studied it to see what that bird is, but it is a call that might as well be a metronome. They're found pastures, meadows, forests, lawns. When not displaying or feeding, they perch high in trees, as we can see in this picture of brown-headed cowbirds in the San Jacinto Wildlife Area, Allen, California. So they are a native species to North America, but are considered a nuisance bird because, Scott, they destroy eggs and young adults of small songbirds and have been implicated in the decline of several endangered species, including the Kirtland's warbler and black-capped vireo. Cowbirds will flock with other species birds and come into your yard, scatter grain on the ground. If you're large enough to keep livestock, there's a good chance you'll find the cowbirds there picking through the cow manure from whence their name came. They hang around cows and pick through the manure. It will come to feeders with no trouble. It's a brood parasite bird. The female makes no nest of her own, but instead lays eggs in nests of other species, which then raise the cowbirds. And it is been documented to have laid eggs in more than 220 species of birds. And this I found interesting. Recent genetic analysis indicates that most individual brown-headed cowbirds, females, specialize in laying their eggs in one specific host species. So they are nest species specific. They don't just find a nest and lay an egg. They find a specific nest made with us by a specific species, and lay eggs in that nest over that species nest over and over. Many birds can recognize the cowbird eggs are not theirs, but they're not big enough to get the eggs out. Instead, like the yellow warbler, if it finds cowbird nests in its eggs in its nest, they'll build a new nest, Scott, over the top of the older one, hoping the cowbird doesn't come back, and then that egg won't incubate. Larger species that recognize them will puncture the egg or even grab the cowbird eggs and throw them on the ground. But a majority of the host birds don't recognize the cowbird's eggs at all. So what happens is the cowbird's eggs hatch faster than the host species, giving the nestlings a head start in getting food from their nest mate, parasitic brothers and sisters. They also develop significantly faster than their nest mates. So they either help push the eggs out of the nest or smother the birds in the bottom of the nest, or just dominate the feeding behavior. And so the parents feed the parasitic bird to the detriment of their offspring. So, I said despise a while ago when you and I were talking. I don't despise brown-headed cowbirds. They do serve a purpose, but it is sad that they're causing decline of other birds. So,
Right.
As you can see, again, common throughout all of the United States, down into central and southern Mexico, and up into the high plains states and provinces of Canada. So that is the brown-headed cowbird. Next, we come to the elusive marsh wren. So I say elusive because it's almost like they have a secret life that plays out under the cover of reeds. So here we go. Listening to it.
That's cool. Sounds like that blast from laser tag or something.
It does. And these birds are vocal. They will call in the mornings, they will call at sunset, and they have been known to call all night long in places. And there again, you can hear a red-winged blackbird in the background. Hear that blackbird?
Mm-hmm.
Red-winged? So there we go. Very beautiful, aggressive call. They're 3.5 to 5.5 inches. So they're basically a big sparrow size. As you can see in the picture here, they perch with their tail effectively sticking straight up. They're plump, small, round bodied, and they hold that straight tail back up against their back. Thin bill, short wings, has a white eyebrow that goes from the bill back to the back of its head. Very colorful birds, light brown to white on the underparts, rufous to brown on its back with a barred tail, and generally black wingtips. Let's see, where am I at? I've lost my place. As we can see, they grasp the stalks of reeds, and because reed beds are so dense, that makes them a secretive bird. Interestingly enough, that males routinely mate with 2 or more females and build 6 dummy nests for every female they mate with. One male was documented as building 22 nests in his territory. They love marshes filled with reeds, cattails, rushes. They wrap around with their feet, 3 in the front, 3 toes in the front, 1 in the back, making them a passerine. Beat their wings on short takeoffs. Wetlands, cattail sedge, bulrushes, any place with weedy agriculture or weedy structure will do for them. There are multiple subspecies of marsh wrens throughout the range, and we can see it's basically all of the United States, most of Mexico, some fingers going up into, again, the Great Plains provinces of Canada. The full taxonomy has not been evaluated. In general, individuals in the eastern United States are rustier and more brightly colored than individuals in the west. Birds in the west also have a larger playlist of songs that are harsher and more complex than those in the east. So the song, I don't know where this came from for the video, so it's hard to say which ones they are. There's also a small disconnected resident population in Mexico, in Hidalgo, Mexico, and Puebla. So I guess those are the ones we see in southern Mexico. So this is the marsh wren. Here we go. Listen a little bit more. If you listen, right, watching his bill, there's a little buzz right before he starts singing. I am amazed, Scott, about how many of these video files and audio files have red-winged blackbirds in them. I guess because
They're everywhere.
the birds are going to water, and that's where red-winged blackbirds are. Blackbirds are, but I find that interesting. So in the next picture, we have a 2-for-1. We have the red-tailed hawk and the American pelican. I did not put American white pelicans in the name. These were at the San Jacinto Wildlife Area in California. We're going to talk about the American pelican first. These are big old birds here. Let's listen to them. Almost sounds like a great blue heron.
It's like a dog, like a little dog barking or something.
That does almost, and then a grunt. That grunt sounds
Frog.
like a,
Goes from frog to dog.
yeah. That grunting sound to me sounds like a great blue heron.
Does it?
Yeah. Different, but it's sort of similar. So that's the American white pelican. We have them here, Western United States, basically west of the Mississippi, except along the Gulf Coast. And that's where I've seen most of my pelicans on my trips along the Gulf, white pelicans and brown pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Although they do winter here along the Arkansas River. They're sometimes on Beaver Lake out east of us, and they have been seen spotted on some lakes up in Bella Vista and Grand Lake over in Oklahoma. So they are in the area where they winter here. Now, these birds are big, 50 to 65 inches long,
Wow.
goose and larger, okay? Huge bird, huge water bird with very broad wings, a long neck, and massive bills that give the head a unique, very long shape. They have thick bodies, short legs, and short square tails. During the breeding season, adults grow an unusual projection or horn on their upper mandible near the tip of the bill. So, it's a weird looking bump that grows there. They're snowy white and have black flight feathers visible only when their wings are spread. So we can see in this picture, those black flight feathers are clearly visible from underneath. There is a small patch of ornamental feathers on the chest that can become yellow in spring. I sort of think of these almost like a wild turkey beard, but not nearly like a wild turkey has a beard. And weirdly, the wild turkey's beard comes out of its chest. I get a picture of a wild turkey. We haven't had a turkey on the show yet, although I've been here the whole time. The bills and legs are both yellow-orange, and immature birds are mostly white as well, but the head, neck, and back can vary in dusky colors. The American white pelican is among the heaviest flying birds in the world, and it can travel extremely long distance by simply soaring. Their wing beats are slow and methodical, and weirdly, pelicans can overheat in the summertime, so they will sit with their backs to the sun and open their pouch to cool off, because their pouch is full of blood vessels, much like elephants' ears are full of blood vessels, and they use them to cool off. Pelicans can too. So, and contrary to cartoon portrayals, because we've all seen, a pelican carrying around a fish in its throat pouch and then doing something with it. Pelicans don't carry food in their bill pouches. They use the bill patch to scoop up fish, then drain out the water and swallow their catch. Then they'll fly off, but they do not fly with things in their pouch. Likewise, Scott, I know you've seen plenty of brown pelicans, a flight of 4 or 5, and then they all wing over like a fighter, like a dive bomber.
They are amazing. I mean, like precision flying over California waves. You see them just maybe an inch, half an inch. Sometimes their wingtips are just grazing the water as they're going, through a wave, looking for fish to eat.
Right. And I've seen flights of them, 4 or 5 of them flying along, and all of a sudden the lead one will wing over like a dive bomber going down, on a carrier in World War II. They still wing over and hit the water and plunge into the water, and 4 or 5 of them just boom, 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 all go into the water. Well, that's not what the American white does. The brown pelicans do, but the American white pelicans simply swim along and never go under the water to catch their prey. However, they do coordinate their swimming to drive schools of fish towards shallow waters, where then they can scoop up the corralled fish. So they are a community hunter and work together to herd schools of fish. I suspect that's what happens when you see those brown pelicans wing over. They are doing the same thing. They're cooperatively hunting and working together to corral fish that they can get. As I said, these pelicans are really big birds. They can overheat in the summertime, and they flutter their bill patches in a strange display. And birds that are on the nest incubating can also overheat. They will also spread their wings and open their bill patches, attempting to cool off. So here's an amazing statistic. American white pelicans have to provide around 150 pounds of food to raise a chick until the time it's ready to forage on its own. So, we don't think, it'd be interesting to see how many ounces a songbird has to capture and feed, like a bluebird. How many ounces of food does a bluebird have to catch to raise its chick versus the American white pelican? The chicks can crawl around their nest by the age of 2 weeks. By 3 weeks, they can walk with their body off the ground, and it can swim as soon as they can walk to water. Older chicks can run, then start running and flapping their wings. And by age 10 weeks, they suddenly begin to fly. They breed on islands and shallow wetlands in the interior of the continent. They spend their winters mainly on coastal waterways, bays, and estuaries, or a little distance inland. We have wintering flocks here So we are a little distance inland, obviously. So also in this picture, in the top center is the red-tailed hawk. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
The red-tailed hawk. The classical hawk sound.
Oh, yeah. You know, something else that I found that was interesting about pelicans is that they are the earliest pelican fossil is about 30 million years old.
Wow. So they've been
Yes.
around, pelicans have been
for
around a long time.
Yep.
Yeah. So looking at the range map, obviously almost all except the extreme northlands of Canada, all the way down into what is that, Costa Rica, down in that neck of the woods, Cuban Islands, Haiti, Hispaniola, I guess is the name of the island. So anyway, these are big birds, Scott, 17 to 22 inches long, between a crow and a goose, but nothing like the size of the pelican, as we can see here. And from the underside, it's very distinctive. This is the classical red-tailed hawk with black sort of bird-shaped pattern with white on the downwind side, followed by a black rim around the wings, and then a black tip tail that's white. And from the top, it looks like a red tail. A lot of people confuse it with the red-shouldered hawk. We haven't had a red-shouldered hawk picture yet. I have not seen one come through. I need to try and find one, and so we can compare the differences between the red-tailed and the red-shouldered. But anyway, red-tailed hawks are large hawks with typical hawk proportions, very broad, rounded wings, and a short, wide tail. Large females seen from a distance might fool you into thinking that you're seeing an eagle until an actual eagle comes along, and then you go, gee, that bird's not that big. A lot of people will see hawk's nests or owl nests and think they're bald eagle nests. But when you see a bald eagle's nest, you go, wow, that thing's big. As we've talked about, they can weigh more than a ton, and these are bald eagle nests, size of a VW Beetle type of thing. But when you see the difference, it's remarkable. But when
things to fall out of the tree and hit you.
Exactly, they're big. Most red-tailed hawks are rich brown above and pale below, with a streaked belly on the underside wings, a dark bar between the shoulder and wrist, and a tail that's pale below and cinnamon red above. Although a young bird's tail can be brown and banded. Dark morph birds are all chocolate brown with a warm red tail. Rufous morph, I'm having trouble speaking all of a sudden. Rufous morph birds are reddish brown on the chest with a dark belly. I'm going with this as probably a rufous morph because of that very dark belly we see in the photo. You often see them soaring in wide circles high over a field, looking for their prey. When they flap, their wing beats are very heavy. In high winds, they face in the wind and hover without flapping. They can fix their eyes on the ground, looking for in tiny little movement. When they find it, they attack in a slow, controlled dive with their legs outstretched. Much different from the falcon's steep dive bomber dive. It must be something for a mouse to look up and see those talons about a foot away. And it's just those eagle talons and raptor talons are just amazing thing. Probably the most common hawk in North America. You're always going to see them around the country, perched on a power line, perched on a hay bale, atop telephone poles, always looking on the ground, looking for movement of a vole or rabbit, or simply waiting for cold weather before they climb into a thermal and ride the updraft into the sky. They often hunt in pairs and have been seen guarding opposite sides of the same tree, waiting for a squirrel to move from one side to the other so they can catch it. So squirrels, Scott, when they feel threatened, will move to the back side of a tree. And so
I
if
see.
one squirrel is on, if a bird lands in a tree and sits there, the squirrel is going to move to the backside to try and hide to freeze. So when another one comes in and land, that squirrel is going to go, uh-oh, and move to the other side of the tree. And now it's given away its position and it becomes the squirrel buffet, and the cycle of life continues. Red-tailed hawks eat mostly mammals, so they're less likely to visit a bird feeder station. If you have a hawk that comes into a bird feeding station, it's almost always a Cooper's hawk or a sharp-shinned hawk, both of which are hard to tell apart. And it's supposed to be very rare for red-tailed hawks to go after dogs or cats. So people always think that red-tailed hawks go after dogs and cats and, small children. I'm mostly making that up. But I have seen, red-tailed hawks, getting mice, voles, and things like that. I once saw a hawk I never could identify. I think I talked about it. There was a grackle or a blackbird of some sort in a tree out at the farm, and this brown streak came by, hit the tree, and flew off into a tree I couldn't see. And there was a lot of squawking going on by the captured bird until there was no more squawking by the captured bird. So as we've seen, the red-tailed hawk is the classic sound for a hawk. That classic raspy scream. That's what we all think a raptor should sound like.
Mhm. I'm reading here that it says hawks and are afraid of owls, especially the big ones.
Mhm.
And they said that some owls will knock hawks out of their nests at night.
I would believe it.
So therefore, prefer to stay away from owls rather than confront them.
Right. So, as I said, I was trying to set up a punchline. The classic scream we all think, at least that's what Hollywood directors want us to think. Whenever you see a hawk or an eagle on screen, no matter what the species, it's almost guaranteed to be the sound of a red-tailed hawk, because
Right.
that's the soundtrack of any raptor. It's what every raptor should sound like. It's the perfect sound for a raptor, and that's what you get. So if you've ever seen courting red-tailed hawks, their aerial displays in wide circles, great height, the male dives steeply, shoots up again. The female follows along after several of these swoops. He will generally approach the female from above, extend his legs and touch her. Sometimes the pair grab onto each other, clasping talons, and plummet in spirals towards the ground before separating and flying off to do the whole courting display over again. Now then, I have one more thing, and this was captured by Ben Abera, our director of sales here, and it is, let me see if I can get, here we go. This is a dark-eyed junco in Ben's backyard when it snowed last week. We've had dark-eyed juncos before. I have not put up the range map or the sound, but here we go. And what's interesting is it fascinated him how the birds shoveled snow to get to the seed that he had out. Here we go. And then in comes the beautiful male cardinal. So he was just fascinated how they jump forward and jump back and jump forward and jump back in an effort to clear the snow so they can get their next meal. So anyway, that's the show for today. Great pictures. Beautiful snow we had. It was pretty cool. Actually, it's not really cold except for one night, and it was gone. That's the nice part. Most of our snows are gone just really quickly. So have talked to Kevin Shank again. He's had something today, and he's got something next week. but after next week, he thinks he's going to be clear. So we're shooting for, what is that going to be? The first Thursday in April? Would that be right? Next week? No, the 31st, the last day of March.
Okay.
We should have Kevin and how he captures his fantastic images of owls and other birds doing their stuff at night. And he's going to teach us some of his techniques, and is excited to try and get people to take part in something that is a rarely photographed thing and how he sets it up. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how Kevin captures wild birds doing their wild bird thing. In the wild. There we go. In the wild. So anyway, so that's it. I wish I should have thought I didn't get a green bird. I should have found a green bird today, because it is St. Patty's Day.
Right?
St. Patty's Day. That's why I'm wearing the old green beads. So
is there an official bird of St. Patrick's Day or no?
I doubt it. There's any green bird will do. A parakeet or something will do. So, and Scott, you've got sort of a sad story about a parrot from Wendy. You want to tell that?
Oh yeah.
This is sad.
Yeah, it's not that sad. So here's the deal. Parrots my wife is from Central America, where parrots are wild and but a lot of people get them as pets. And my wife had this one parrot for 35 years, at home. And so she got it, she was quite attached to this particular
She was a little girl. She was a little girl, right?
Girl. That's right. That's right. So 35 years of having this parrot, and this parrot's constantly doing what she describes as naughty things. Okay, so it's like it'll bite things, it'll tear some things apart. It tries to get out. It tries to get away. Well, one day that it found a little hole between the roof of this patio where they stay, okay, and in the wall, and got out, okay, and not to be found. So what happened is that she thought that a cat had gotten it, and so but I thought, well, if a cat had gotten the bird, there would have been feathers around, there would have been a struggle, right? They didn't see any evidence of that. So she started putting out pictures and video that she had taken of her bird on Facebook. Now, there were a lot of, people with snide remarks and making jokes about her lost bird and stuff like that. And so it was, and then there were like false alarms. People would say, oh yeah, we got your bird. And then they would travel out to where the bird was, because they gave a little reward, for anybody that would find this bird. And so there were some false alarms on that. And then what happened is that they did indeed find the bird. And the bird was in a home that was across the city. Now, this is a big city with like 3 million people in it. Okay. So they had answered the Facebook ad and took some videos, sent it to my wife, and she did identify the bird. So she was able to get it back.
I had not heard that. When did that happen?
Of Facebook.
When did
so
that happen?
You remember this was going on for weeks, right? I mean, right. Okay, so here was the deal. And I watched a documentary about parrots. Okay. And what a lot of people don't know about parrots, of course, a lot of people think they're really cool, the big cockatiels and these beautiful birds, and and some of these birds can talk. Okay. Wendy's parrot did not talk. Okay. So they wanted to get rid of it. Okay. Just because it wasn't funny to them. Right.
The people who found it
The people
If
who
it
found
talked-
it expected this, and this is the kind of parrot that typically does talk, but this one doesn't. Okay, so they were not really enthralled with it. This kind of thing happens from time to time, where people, they just become disenchanted with the bird for whatever reason, because these birds have a personality. Okay, and the other thing that I learned about in this documentary is that the birds fall in love. Okay, not love, but fall in love. All right, with their owners. They become imprinted with them, and these birds mate for life. Okay, so you get a bird and it imprints on you, one of these parrots, and imprints on you, and then you decide you don't like it. Okay, well, he still wants you, or she still wants you,
because you're mom and dad. You're the mate.
not mom and dad.
You're
Not
the
mom and
mate.
dad. Their lover.
Right. Right.
Right. And so, the birds, when this happens, they can get so depressed that they'll self-mutilate. They will, they want to give up on life, just because you're not there anymore. A lot of people don't realize this, and they give up the birds, they abandon them, or they turn them into these so-called parrot sanctuaries. But the parrot sanctuaries in the United States are like overrun. Okay,
Right.
They have, some of these parrots, beautiful birds cost $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and the owners find out that it's too much work.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Too much work.
Too much work because you have to be constantly around them. Okay, you can't really leave them for any period of time. So it is. So you'll notice that some people that have birds, they take them everywhere. I mean, they take them to the park. They take them. You'll see them walking around the city, that kind of thing. They're always with their owners. Okay,
And so
there's a reason for that.
One of the problems that you were afraid of was that you can't buy and sell these birds anymore. And
They're
so
illegal.
they're
They're
illegal?
illegal to buy
Right.
and sell in the country of Honduras. So they are captured still, and they are either just kept or sold on the black market. Okay.
So your fear was that because of that, somebody would grab it and go, "Oh, I have a bird now," and you would
Exactly.
never see it again. Which is, frankly, almost what happened. Because
Frankly, almost that I think that was the case. So
was
they
the
did
bird,
not. The people that had gotten the bird really didn't explain how they got it, but they were disenchanted with the bird because it didn't talk. So, and I think that's kind of what the family wanted, was a talking parrot.
So was it happy to be back and reunited with its family?
Yes, visibly so.
Really? So what
yeah.
was that like? Did you because your wife is here, she's not in Honduras.
Right.
Wendy is here.
But when the parrot got home, it does have a mate that is with it. Her name is Lola, and Lola's quite jealous of this bird. And so if that bird gets a little too affectionate with you, Lola will come and bite you.
So what's the bird's name?
The bird's name that got lost was Poncho. So he went on a grand adventure, ended up in another home all the way across the city, and was returned because of being found on Facebook.
Poncho's Grand Adventure.
Yes, it could be like a children's book made about
Yes,
it.
absolutely. Exactly what I was thinking.
Thank God he didn't start self-mutilating, or anything. But in the video that I saw, Poncho was, he just was his cheerful self, So
Well, I had not heard. That must have happened fairly recently,
fairly recently, about
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, actually.
yeah. So I hadn't heard that. That's good, because I thought it was like gone forever into the
Yeah, I mean,
wilds
what are
of-
the odds? What
of-
are the odds? That it just didn't get sold to another, person or something like that. But they did return it. They did claim the some of the reward. You know, it wasn't a huge reward. So I think that they did the right thing.
So did they plug the hole? That the
What's
bird
that?
got it? Did they plug the hole?
They
bird
did
got
plug
out
the
of?
hole.
Good.
Yes.
And went looking for other holes, I suspect. Because
Maybe, but this time Pancho got his wings clipped, so he's
But-
not flying anymore.
not flying for a while, but he knows where that hole is, and he's probably going to try and get out of that hole
He
again.
knew
just-
where the hole was.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore. Yeah.
and he can't chip away at it and get it out, or
Well,
you know.
I wouldn't put that past Pancho, but yeah.
right. But it'll take him time, and they'll notice him doing it before then.
Right.
Well, anyway, Pancho's grand adventure has a happy ending, so that's good. How long is this bird going to live, Scott?
I think the birds can live like 50 to 70 years, something like that.
Wow. So a
Long time.
lifetime commitment for its childhood.
And this bird was not a young bird when they got it. So Pancho might be in his 40s or 50s
Yeah.
already.
Wow.
He's quite lively. So
Yeah. Well, very good. So, all right, time to sign off. Let people get back to their non-bird lives now. We appreciate. We haven't done any shout outs, Scott. We got to. Okay, we're gonna stick on. Give us some shout outs. Who we have?
okay. All right. So who is here today? We had Lou Thompson signed on this first, asked some questions about a Wi-Fi weather station that we have. And we recommended that he try to use a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi extender to see if that solves his problem.
We probably need to put that up on that page once.
Yeah,
because we know.
Yeah. It has happened to at least one or two people that have had that Wi-Fi weather station.
So what we think's
That's
happening,
disconnected from the
5 gig or whatever it is, right?
it is a 2.4 gigahertz system, and a lot of routers today have 2.4 and 2.5. And people that have solved this problem have used a Wi-Fi extender that was 2.4, specifically 2.4. The 2.4, 2.5 main router sees the extender, no problem. But we think that the problem is that when if you're hooking up directly and the router toggles to 2.5, that it drops the connection, okay?
Right.
And then it can keep it on for a while. So we were having people that would hook it up, it'd work for some period of time and then drop, and then go up and down and go up and down. So
Right.
that was the problem. We think that that's the issue. We have, of course, we look at these things all the time just to make sure that people get the best user experience with the products. But that so far, that's satisfying everybody that has those kind of systems. If you have smart home devices or you have a mesh network, again, this is something where some of your devices might be 2.4 or 2.5, and so these mesh networks can also create a problem. Apparently also still solved by a Wi-Fi extender that's 2.4. We have David Samard. He says hello from New Brunswick. Sentel Nagapan is on. Sentel and I were talking this morning about learning how to do drift alignments. He was having problems with his iXos 100 mount. And although everything's connecting up and everything, Sentel does not have a view of Polaris from his backyard. And so I'm going to be walking him through doing a drift alignment. What I was a little shocked at this morning is he belongs to a club that has, I think, roughly 1,000 members or something like that. And no one in the club knows how to do drift alignments.
So did
Really?
he see my show yesterday on how to do a polar alignment using a compass?
I'm not sure, but Sentel, you should watch First Light Chronicles yesterday's show, and you can see broomstick polar alignment, and that might also help. But
Yeah. It'll
I'm
get you
recommending-
close.
I'm
That'll get you
recommending that he
close.
gets a illuminated reticle eyepiece, and I'm going to walk him through doing a drift alignment,
So-
the good old fashioned way. So
So one thing that could be giving him problems, Scott, is he lives in New Brunswick, right? No. Where does he live?
I don't know where Centil lives exactly.
If he lives on one of the,
Maybe Virginia, I think.
okay, so his magnetic declination is going to be like 9 or 10 or 11 degrees. So if he's using a magnetic compass to find north, he's going to be off by 9 degrees because it's, you get up into Maine, it's 15 degrees off from where north is. You're pointing magnetic north, not where Santa Claus lives. And that could be causing problems if he's using magnetic north and not accounting for the magnetic declination.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Let's see. I think, yeah, here you go. This is a map with magnetic declination. It gives you an idea of what that looks like.
So Scott, there's a website NOAA has.
Here we go. So you can
Yep.
see,
Whoops.
we can see an ad. Here we go. Close. Here we go. So you can see these lines right here show, I guess, the 0 line. If you were along that line,
Basically, it's the Mississippi River, right?
Okay. Your compass would point to the North Pole of the Earth. Okay.
Correct.
But that's also not the North Pole in the sky. It's close, but it's not precise. The other thing I found, Kent, when I was working with Meade Instruments and the LX200, is that there are individual areas that have magnetic deviations.
Correct. Absolutely.
Geographically, I mean, it could be just up the road or something. And
so Scott, I just sent you in the chat a
Mhm.
link to the NOAA National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration magnetic field calculator. So
Okay.
it gives you you can put in your location or longitude and latitude, and it will give you a fairly accurate estimation, and it's updated
Sure.
every few months. Like if you live in a upward iron country in Minnesota and Michigan and Wisconsin, where there's big iron beds, that makes compasses go haywire, just crazy.
Right. Lubo in China says some of the apps have compensation built in. That is true. But nothing replaces actually getting a really great polar alignment,
Mhm.
Which
drift
for
method.
tracking, so
Right. For drift method is the way to go. Technique to learn.
that takes into compensation flexure in your mount. That's another thing that apps can't fix is flexure. Okay. So that is, and if you think that your small amateur telescope has no flexure, think again. A lot of people think of that as, in big, ginormous observatory telescopes where they have flexure with things bending and stuff under their own weight. But even little telescopes have that too.
Another thing they don't take into account is cone error.
And that's another one. That's true.
And apps don't fix cone error. They can, tracking can deal with cone error. Cone
Right.
error is the difference between where your polar axis is pointing and where your telescope's pointing.
Right.
So if your telescope's pointing
For pointing accuracy, cone error is very important.
Yeah.
For polar alignment, though, you can still have a telescope that has bad cone error and still do a proper
correct,
drift alignment.
right?
So there's a lot of things that it will take into account. Harold Locke was on with us today. Harold was on Global Star Party on Tuesday, so that was really cool. I've already put out the RSVP for the 87th Global Star Party. So that will be, it's the theme is cosmic evolution. So what we'll see what our presenters come up with. Beatrice wants to know, what are the most popular birds in Honduras? Well, to people, it's parrots.
Yeah. For bird watchers,
there are a lot of birds in Honduras. If you go to like the cloud forest in La Tigre, or you go to places like Copan, where the Mayan ruins are and stuff like that, or to Roatan, which is a beautiful island off the coast of Honduras, actually still part of that country. There's some just amazing birds of all different kinds, so really beautiful. So by the numbers, I don't know what is the most popular bird in Honduras, but interesting place, that's for sure. And
we
go
have
ahead.
I have a book, of birds of Costa Rica, and amazingly, many of the birds in Costa Rica, which is south of Honduras, so it's Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras on the Caribbean side, and then Nicaragua and Costa Rica are all going to share most of the same birds. And many of those birds are North American birds that migrate and spend the winter there and then migrate back. So I was shocked going through it going, oh, I know that bird. Oh, I know that bird. Oh, I know. But it went, oh, that's a weird bird. So they have their own unique birds. But many of our songbirds go to Central and South America for the winter. So true snowbirds.
Right. So Richard Grace was watching. He said he just installed his dad's 5-in-1 weather station and he loves it. So that's cool. And he said he put it on he climbed a ladder and cut a locust at about 7 feet up and put the sensor package up there. We have ours actually on top of our building. We have a 5-in-1 up there and we're about to install a 7-in-1 as well. And what else? Of course, Lubo in China was watching, and so we're real happy to have all you guys tune in today, and we'll be back tomorrow with focus on astrophotography. And I think that Tyler has a special guest for tomorrow as well. So I'll have to double check on that.
That sounds secretive.
Does it?
Oh, it sounds like a special guest.
How about me just being clueless? Okay, so
okay, that could be.
That could be.
I haven't heard him talk, so I don't know if he's got who he has coming. So
right. Okay. Well, I hope you guys had a great St. Patrick's Day. If you celebrate St. Patrick's Day wherever you are, and otherwise, I hope you had a great Thursday. And you guys keep looking up, and we'll be back tomorrow. Take care.